Plagiarism, the practice of taking someone else's work or ideas and passing them off as one's own. Oxford definition. And if there is one nation that a lot of people consider it to be a nation of plagiarism, look no further than radical monastery. For those who doesn't give a damn about the law, that's what they're gonna say. But as someone who's somewhat invested in the law of the Vanguard, it makes sense because radical monastery is essentially the love life of Vanguard. Essentially a gather hub of all the female races that want to become an idol. They all gather at this particular nation to become, an idol. And it makes sense that every single right line does have some element that is borrowed from the other nation as well. But this is, in my opinion, the first case of an actual plagiarism because the right line that I'm going to be talking about today literally just copy paste Claudine, and that is the idol unit that is kind of representing the actual Bioroys in Radical Monasterio. Juicy Fruities. Can't you just get a better name? Anyway, today I'm going to be talking about Juicy Fruity right line and whether they are good or even better than Claudine, the original playstyle of the deck. Well, one advantage that this particular right line has over Claudine for sure is, for one, the deck does have its own right line, starting off with the grade 1 of the right line, Juicy Fruity up Run Run. This unit only have one skill where when this unit is placed by riding from Juicy Fruity Mandalinda, the grade 0, reveal a grade 3 with Juicy Fruity in its card name from your right deck and call a plant token to Rega's circle. And the same skill is pretty much applied to the grade 2 of the right line, Juicy Fruity Nana Banana as well, but instead of, needing to ride from the grade 0, it need to ride from the grade 1 instead. Nothing too special, it is a necessity piece for this deck to actually function because the deck requires a plant token to be on the field. And you know what, credit to Two do, it does a decent job. I mean, generate the token immediately means that you can use it in the early game aggro if you're forced to go second, and if you manage to go first, you're not gonna be too worried about wasting your hand because your board is slowly building up over the time as you reach into the grade 3 version of the right line, Juicy Fruity Shure Lina. I don't know why this is the only Bioroy, but anyway, this unit has 3 different skills where constant on Vanguard circle, all of your plant token gets 5k and additional 5k for every card in your soul with the same card name as this unit. This also active during your opponent's turn, and then act on Vanguard once per turn. So last one, you can call up to 2 plant token to Rega circle, but after that, if your opponent Vanguard is grade 3 or greater and you have 4 or more Regards, it gets triple drive until end of turn. And last but not least, when this unit attack counter blast 1, call a plant token to Rega circle and it gets, this unit get all of the trigger effect your Vanguard gets, and when this unit is returned to hand from Rega circle, draw a card. Yeah, the plagiarism is undeniable, but there is definitely a few aspects that I'm willing to give prop for Bushiroad, that they're trying to make it on the similar power level as Claudine, combining with all the Stoichia generic, which work very well with plant token. As for one, Shuralina is the source of power gaining for the token, both from the first skill that is a slow ramping skill, and the third skill that, even though only apply to one token, it can get ridiculous if your trigger luck is really good. I mean, imagine checking over trigger with this skill. Overall, I don't think this is a bad boss in it, but it does feel very close to home with Claudine with a little bit of extra step. Maybe these two characters are actually friends in the actual lore, so if you guys are very familiar with the lore, do leave in the comments because I'm really curious. But we are here to talk about the legitimacy of the deck itself. Thus, introducing plant token mechanic in Radical Monasterio a good thing? I'll be honest, not exactly. Unlike some other nation that has a mechanic focus on soul or retiring or superior calling, plant token is quite unique mechanic that is really hard to import over to Radical in general, and because of that, I do feel Shurelina can only get goods if its own support holds up. Yes, there are a few generic that does work with this card, but it is quite far and few in between, and those few are pretty much runnable in any deck to begin with no consequence at all. Fortunately enough, the support does hold its own weight, as we can start off with blah blah message Poroin. This unit skill can be activated from Regard or hand, where at the start of your card step, your grade 3 or greater Vanguard with Juicy Fruity in its name is attacked. You can put this card into soul, choose one of the unit being attacked, and it gets power plus 10k until end of that battle. So roughly the same timing as things like Night Dragon, but annoyingly enough, it is grade 3 lock, which is a little bit annoying considering I see no harm allowing this kind kind of defensive skill at the start of the game. Moving on to another card, we have Abundant Drowsy Villanera. This unit has only one skill as well, where at the end of battle this unit boosts a token unit, so blast one and return the boosted unit to your hand. Essentially, this is like a Yuika at home for this particular deck, and I would give them a praise for actually doing this, because this means that if you want to start this particular deck off early without like heavy investment, you actually can. And this particular trend does continue into the double R of this deck, Overwhelming Performance Nabiti. This unit has two skills where when this card is discarded from your hand during your turn, you may put this card into your soul, and then at the end of the battle, this unit boosted a token unit, put this unit into soul and counter charge one. This card just recovers soul, which I'll be honest is an extremely important resource for this particular deck, but the fact that it can be used in multitude of ways is actually really nice. And like I said earlier, this is essentially a discard cycler specifically for this particular deck, though it can be used in any deck in general except for the second part of the skill, but this is generic, so you technically can run this in Artisaria as well, because you know, Shadow Army. And last but not least, we have Touching Essence Dinty. This unit only have two skill, where when placed on Raycard Circle with a token unit, you have to overcall it, either counter blast 1 or soul blast 2, draw a card, and if your Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, this unit gets power plus 5k until end of turn. And then when the token unit is placed on a Raycard Circle this unit was on by your Vanguard's ability, put this card into your hand. I would say this is, in my opinion, one of the more important card of the deck, because it's essentially making sure that you bounce without the need of actually using the bouncer that you have. And if you guys are a long time watcher of this channel, you know I love a good alternate cost skill, and this is definitely one of them. But Soul Blast 2 is kind of a heavier side, and the reason why you guys notice a lot of emphasis on soul recovery that this particular support do has. But how good is it? Does plagiarism does for the deck in general? Well, it's actually not bad. Like, the deck has an easy board building capability that can rush early as well, on top of being quite simple and easy to cycle, thanks to the support being decent enough in terms of recovering your soul resource, and also give you enough draw power to actually last until next turn, so that you can personal ride and do the same thing all over again. The only issue that I'm seeing with this deck as the time of recording is that if you do not pull cards that help you to recover soul, the next turn you will be forced to use counter blast on the skill that has an option to do so, and because of that you might overuse the counter blast more than expected, which might not be exactly a good thing. And of course, against a retired deck, this deck will just explode like iffy crushing melons or something, and that's juicy fruity. A plagiarism of Claudine that, you know what, credit due to where it's due, that's able to do everything on its own, enough for it to actually be considered one of the more budget build deck that I can recommend. But as of now, I think the deck needs a little bit more cards to actually make it perform better. But to be fair, the same can be said to any new deck that just released in the booster itself. She is definitely one of the more fortunate one who did not receive the Venecio special, where he only got one supported play around his playstyle. So I think that is a good thing in itself. But what do you guys think? Are you going to still stick to a Claudine in stock here as usual, or are you going to fall this really common monasterio of plagiarism? Do leave down in the comments below. And yeah, that's all I have for today. Take care of yourself, don't forget to clap that sub and become a member for some cool perks. This is Mac Mechanic signing out.
Hey! Hey!